Across the sun-scorched sands of Egypt, beneath the gaze of timeless monuments, lie secrets etched in stone. For millennia, this land has captivated the human imagination, a cradle of civilization that speaks to us through a language of symbols, gods, and pharaohs. Its scale is almost incomprehensible, structures built with a precision that baffles engineers to this day. We have studied its tombs, deciphered its texts, and marveled at its architectural genius. Yet, for all we have learned, the desert holds its mysteries close, guarding a history that feels both intimately known and profoundly alien. Some believe that hidden within the sacred art of this ancient culture are clues to a history far more advanced than we have ever imagined. A history that could rewrite everything we think we know about the human story. Deep within the temple walls at Abydos, one of the oldest and most sacred cities of ancient Egypt, a peculiar set of carvings has ignited a fierce debate. This was the cult center of Osiris, the god of the afterlife, a place of immense religious importance. But on a solid stone lintel, high above the ground, are images that seem to defy their ancient context. At first glance, they seem impossibly modern. Proponents of unconventional theories point to shapes that bear an uncanny resemblance to 21st century technology. They see the distinct form of a helicopter, complete with a rotor and tail. Beside it, what appears to be a modern battle tank, or perhaps a sleek submarine. Further along, some even identify a shape akin to a futuristic jet fighter. Could these be depictions of advanced machinery witnessed by ancient artists? For believers in ancient astronaut theories, this is a smoking gun, proof that our ancestors were visited by beings with sophisticated technology, and they recorded what they saw in the most permanent medium they had: stone. The mystery deepens hundreds of kilometers away, at the magnificent Dendera temple complex, dedicated to the goddess Hathor. Here, another set of reliefs presents an even more startling image. In a subterranean crypt, hidden from the light of day, a large, transparent bulb-like object is depicted, containing a serpent. A cable, or stem, appears to connect this bulb to a box, which some have interpreted as a power source, a kind of ancient generator. Supporting the entire apparatus is a figure, often identified as a jade pillar, which proponents claim acts as a high-voltage insulator. To believers in ancient high technology, the conclusion is inescapable. This is a schematic for an ancient electrical lighting system, a Dendera light bulb. They argue that such technology would have been necessary to illuminate the deep, windowless tombs and temples. How else, they ask, could artists have created such detailed and colorful masterpieces in total darkness without leaving the soot marks that torches or oil lamps would inevitably produce? Is this proof of forgotten knowledge, a technology passed down from a lost civilization, or perhaps even a gift from extraterrestrial visitors? Coincidence, or something more? The claim is tantalizing that the ancient Egyptians possessed a scientific understanding far beyond their time, a secret history hidden in plain sight. But to understand the Dendera relief, we must look at it not with modern eyes, but through the lens of ancient Egyptian cosmology. For Egyptologists, this scene is not a technical diagram, but a rich tapestry of religious symbolism, a visual story of creation itself. The scene is a classic representation of Egyptian creation myths, entirely consistent with countless other examples of their religious art. The bulb is not glass, but the celestial womb of the sky goddess, Nut, from which the sun is born each day. The filament is not a wire, but a serpent, representing the god Harsamtis, being born from a lotus flower, a primordial symbol of creation and rebirth that was central to their beliefs. The power box is simply the base of the lotus flower, the source of this divine life. And the supporting pillar is the jade, a well-known and ubiquitous symbol representing the backbone of the god Osiris, signifying stability, endurance, and divine power. This wasn't a blueprint for a machine. It was a powerful visual prayer, a celebration of the birth of a sun god and the daily cycle of cosmic renewal. So what about the supposed flying machines at Abydos? If the Dendera light is a myth, are these vehicles a reality? Here, the explanation is less about symbolism and more about the practicalities of royal succession and the passage of time. The answer lies in a common ancient practice known as creating a palimpsest. A palimpsest is a manuscript or piece of writing material on which later writing has been superimposed on effaced earlier writing. In ancient Egypt, this happened frequently on temple walls. When a new pharaoh came to power, they would often update or replace the inscriptions of their predecessors, sometimes as a sign of respect, other times to literally write them out of history. Scribes would apply a layer of plaster over the old carvings, smooth it out, and then inscribe new hieroglyphs on top, dedicating the monument to the new ruler. Over thousands of years, exposed to the elements, this plaster has eroded and fallen away. What we see today is not a single, coherent image, but two or more sets of hieroglyphs layered on top of each other, creating an accidental collage. The original inscription was part of the royal titulary of Pharaoh Seti I. It was later plastered over and recarved with the titles of his son and successor, the great Ramesses II. The helicopter is actually the result of an original glyph, meaning he who repulses the 9 bows, a term for the enemies of Egypt, being overwritten by a later glyph from Ramesses II's title, he who protects Egypt and overthrows foreign countries. The shape of a bow from Seti's time merges with the shape of a forearm from Ramesses's time. The tank is a similar illusion, created by the partial erosion of plaster over the glyph for mouth and another for arm. They aren't machines, they're a linguistic and archaeological coincidence, a ghost image created by 2 messages separated by time. This brings us to a fundamental aspect of human psychology, pareidolia. This is the powerful, innate tendency to perceive a specific, often meaningful image in a random or ambiguous visual pattern. It's why we see faces in clouds, animals in rock formations, or a man in the moon. It's why a stain on a wall can look like a map, or the grain of wood can form a face. Our brains are hardwired to find patterns and recognize familiar objects, a survival trait that helps us quickly identify predators or friends. When we look at the Abydos carvings, our modern brain, saturated with images of helicopters and tanks, instinctively searches for and finds those patterns in the jumble of overlapping lines. We are seeing what we are conditioned to see, projecting our own technological world onto the art of the past. For an ancient Egyptian, these merged shapes would have been meaningless, or perhaps just seen as poorly erased text, a scribal error. For us, living in the age of flight and mechanized warfare, they become tantalizing evidence of the extraordinary. The historical and archaeological context further supports the mainstream explanation. The carvings at Abydos date to the New Kingdom, around 1280 BCE. The tools of the era were copper and bronze chisels, stone hammers, and abrasive powders. There is no archaeological evidence whatsoever, no unusual metal alloys, no machine parts, no discarded wiring, no power sources, to suggest a level of technology capable of producing helicopters or electric lights. Furthermore, regarding the no soot argument, soot marks have indeed been found in many tombs, and Egyptologists have convincingly demonstrated how a clever system of reflective, polished copper mirrors could have been used to bounce sunlight deep into interior spaces, providing ample light for artists to work. Ultimately, the debate pits symbolism versus speculation, ancient context versus modern interpretation. On one side, a compelling and exciting narrative of a lost, technologically advanced civilization. On the other, a methodical, evidence-based explanation rooted in linguistics, art history, chemistry, and psychology. The choice of what to believe often says more about us than it does about the ancient Egyptians. It reflects our own fascination with technology, our deep-seated desire for mystery, and the romantic hope that there is still a secret, more fantastic history waiting to be discovered beneath the sands. The stones of Egypt continue to guard their secrets. They invite us to look closer, to question, and to wonder at the incredible achievements of this civilization. But as we gaze into the past, searching for answers, we must ask ourselves a critical question. Are we truly uncovering a hidden history, or are we just seeing our own reflection in the magnificent mirage of the past?